So first, I want to thank you all for coming today. And before I begin, I want you all to think about the last time you saw road posts. For a lot of you, I'm guessing it was pretty recently, and that's what our project aims to address. We worked with the Department of Wildlife Resources on mitigating wildlife vehicle conflict in Loudoun County. So our conservation challenge is that increasing habitat fragmentation is leading to high amounts of wildlife vehicle, which includes collisions, near misses, and other negative consequences of interactions between humans and traffic and wildlife. Consequences include harm to wildlife populations, driver safety risks, and financial costs of collisions. But mitigation structures such as overpasses, underpasses, and fencing can greatly reduce this issue, reducing patches upwards of 80%. But more needs to be done to actually implement these structures. So Taylor and I took on two angles of this project. Taylor explored the ecological component, where he looked into how wildlife perceives anthropogenic noise and how wildlife crossing structures can affect this. And I looked into how various stakeholders perceive wildlife vehicle conflict and how we can both support for moving forward in the safety process. Our study area was Loudoun County, Virginia, which has the highest rate of wildlife vehicle conflict out of all Virginia counties. So it's a big hotspot for this, which is why we focus our research on this area. So my research question is, how can Virginia organizations build groundswell support to motivate the Virginia Department of Transportation to implement wildlife vehicle conflict mitigation strategies? My objective is to understand how to address roadblocks, explore strategies for building support, and learn what has led to successful implementation in other states. I followed up on previous student research, where students reviewed several actors involved in the application process, understand the roles, motivations, barriers involved in their organization. So I followed up with a lot of these candidates, and I also broadened my scope and interviewed some new organizations that focus on ecology and transportation. And I analyzed the points from these interviews and connected them to my objective to create recommendations. So my findings about addressing roadblocks, unsurprisingly, funding was the most commonly mentioned roadblock. And this issue is competing with a lot of other priorities. So one way we can help increase the viability of working on these projects is by providing tangible material, such as prioritizing hotspots and showing data that proves the efficacy of these structures. And there are some gaps in data, including underreported wildlife vehicle conflicts, especially for small animals, because right now this data comes from police reports, which don't capture the full scope of the issue. And what I learned about building support, candidates mostly mentioned that they had seen a positive reception from the public when they brought it up. And they had mixed opinions on the role of public support, but a lot of candidates thought that public support would put pressure on decision makers to focus on this issue more. A lot of candidates agreed that fostering collaboration among organizations is really important. We're already seeing this in Virginia with a collaboration called BISWIC, which brings organizations together to brainstorm solutions. And citizen science can play a role in engaging the public, building awareness, and also filling in some of those gaps in development. Lessons to be learned from other states. It's really important to have a strong relationship between the Department of Transportation and the State Wildlife Agency. And it also helps to have a clear decision-making process that involves multiple actors, so that people interested in solving wildlife vehicle conflicts can have their voice heard during the planning process. And Western states tend to be ahead on this issue because of the presence of migratory species, which force them to be more proactive in combating this issue. Eastern states are just now starting to pick up an interest in it, but there are a lot of lessons to be learned from the states who have already gone through the process.
Hi everyone, my name is Taylor and I'm focusing on the ecology angle of addressing this conservation challenge. Our research question asked how the collection of acoustic data and the understanding of traffic noise levels reduce wildlife vehicle conflicts in Loudoun County, Virginia. So I have 4 objectives that will help me answer our research question. Our first one is conducting a literature review on what is already known about traffic noise and wildlife and what solutions have been suggested. Most of the literature deems wildlife crossing structures such as bridges and culverts as the most effective at reducing noise levels. Next is studying the relationships between the traffic noise emitted and wildlife that live nearby in Loudoun County. To test this, I'll be comparing sound levels near areas with and without bridges or culverts. On top of that, I will also study the relationship of traffic noise and environmental conditions that will be explained later. And for my fourth objective, I'll create recommendations on what the next steps should be to improve current housing structures to decision making. So to achieve my objectives, you may wonder what I did for 10 weeks in the summer. I based my data collection methods on 2 CRP students' research. In 2023, Alexa Busby has identified 10 hotspots of wildlife vehicle conflicts, and in 2024, CRP student Sophia Polite also went back to the same hotspots instead of camera trucks and bridges and culverts. This year, I went back to set 6 of the hotspots to record noises from areas that did and did not have housing structures, as well as consider other environmental conditions that affect noise levels emitted by traffic, such as vegetation, elevation, and distance. After collecting and analyzing data, I concluded that there are 4 main findings. The first one is that the further we move away from the crossing structure perpendicular to the road, the more noise levels decline. Then this next finding is a little tricky to explain, but there is a steeper decline in noise levels near areas without a crossing structure compared to areas with a bridge or culvert. This supports previous literature on the bridges and culverts themselves reduce sound. But to understand how these structures absorb noise, further research is needed to identify other factors that may contribute to the reduction of noise at these infrastructures. A third finding reveals that there's a relationship between the vegetation and bridges and culverts, which means that vegetation density is an effective supplement to reducing noise levels compared with paved infrastructure. Lastly, I did not find a relationship between noise levels and changes in elevation between the landscape and the road. Ultimately, my findings suggest that wildlife are living habitats with noise levels ranging from 60 to 90 decibels. For humans, is equivalent to the sound of dishwashers to lawnmowers. With the help of vegetation improvement on current infrastructure, we can create safer and quieter conservation for wildlife and better address larger conservation.
So we hope that our research can contribute to the implementation of mitigation structures in Virginia that affects people and wildlife. I want to thank my mentors, Dr. John Swaddle and Jordan Green from the Department of Wildlife Resources, and my research partner, Taylor Loudoun. And I want to thank you all again for coming.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jordan Green with the Department of Wildlife Resources. I want to express my gratitude to Taylor and Percy for their hard work this year and contributions towards a better coexistence with wildlife. The work they've done regarding wildlife vehicle conflict and the work of the students from the past 2 years simply wouldn't be possible to even attempt without this great partnership between DWR and William & Mary's IIC program. Not only is this about accomplishing the research, it's about what the research has led to. A couple of weeks ago, I had the privilege of attending the first field site visit to investigate potential sites where wildlife fencing might be installed to help funnel wildlife away from roads and cross under them at existing bridges and culverts. This meeting included many staff members from DWR, VDOT, and Loudoun County, and was the culmination of work previously done by IAC student Alexa Busby, Kaylee Santella, and Sophia Polite. The work they've done have helped provide guidance on where and how the $450,000 in state appropriated funds should be spent, and I dare say the work these students have accomplished played a role in the appropriation of these funds. Taylor's work will help tremendously with the next steps in wildlife vehicle conflict mitigation design, and Percy's work will help further Virginia's progress in addressing this critical conservation need. I look forward to what both of these students will accomplish, and I'm honored to have played a role helping them along the way. Thank you.